Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new to the channel, you might want to stick around for this one because this one's going to be a banger. This deck's been a lot of fun, and it was a request, so let's get to it here. We have a RADEYAH Elves list, and I'm going to go over the cards real quick before we get into the games. Of course, when we're playing an Elf Swarm, we want to have Feigned Death. It's a scenario that's going to help us get tons of points on the board, including a Commando Engine. We're going to get a Waylay to get an extra Deadeye on our side at the end of the Chapter 2, and of course a couple extra Deadeyes from Chapter 1. So tons of points. Realistically, we can play this in round 1 if we expect a lot of tempo from the opponent's side, but we can also use it to bleed or even as a long round 3. So it's a very versatile card, and I really like it. Now, one of the things in particular with Elves specifically is if you're not running like a Simlas, in this case we can't run a Simlas because we don't have any duplicates, so you want to run Oneiromancy because it's going to be very difficult to get the cards that we need to win if we don't have it, right? Having the ability to go and pull 2 cards from our deck throughout the game is really valuable, so that can make a difference of the Verno, the RADEYAH, the Feigned Death. You see what I'm saying here? It's a really big fetch here, so we want to have that. Vernocile could be used a couple different ways. I have a little bit of row manipulation with row stacking with the Gaten and the Catwitcher combo, so Verno could be put on back row. We also have the ability to put Verno on front row and do a ton of damage to the opponent as it damages for 2 for each allied Deadeye that we have, so it's pretty big in that way. So the reason why RADEYAH is in the list here is because even if we're going on red coin or if we want to bleed in round 2 a scenario, we have the ability to do 2 procs in 1 turn by playing this on melee. Generally speaking, you want to use the melee ability opposed to the range one because the range one's randomized and it doesn't really synergize as well with our list. So there you have it. So if we're looking at a first turn play, you have basically Feigned Death comes down, our Stratagem comes down, and right away that's double proc, and then we get Aileron out of deck, so it acts as a really nice deck thin. It works up to 19 points on the first turn of round 1, so the opponent has a really hard time keeping pace of that tempo. Then we can just take round with some more inexpensive bronze cards that we'll get to. So that's kind of the strat. Because we're doing an Elf Swarm, we're going so wide, we have Isengrim, boost all other allied elves by 1 whenever you play an elf, boosts out by 1. So you can imagine how this is one of those cards you could play just about whenever. It acts for a lot of points. You could play it at the end of the round, you could play it before then. You just want to make sure more than often you're using leader charges first to get the extra little balance that you have there. But because we're adding bodies with Verno, because we're adding bodies with the Feigned Death, with the RADEYAH, with our Stratagem, it definitely helps out. Even we have a contribution from the Half-Elf Hunter for that reason as well. So it's a great card to have. Didn't have room for a Heat Wave or Tall Punish, so I wanted to put a Serpent Trap instead. It acts as the same way in the way that we have the ability to destroy their highest unit when they play a special card. So I didn't want to go with super trap heavy in this case. I didn't want to put the Hattori and do all that sort of stuff. So again, if you want to play traps, I have a trap deck that I posted about a week ago. Go check that one out. But for this one, we're just doing something a little bit different. And of course, what's nice about Gaten too is that it actually works with the traps. So we do have a couple traps here, including the Serpent Trap and the Crushing Trap. You know, for Row Punish and Tall Punish, these, it actually gets value from it as well. It'll account for an extra point of damage. Same with the Catwitcher. So having the 2 traps doesn't really interfere with what we're trying to do here. And that's just for more randomized damage. Really helps set up our waylays, and it really helps, you know, remove engines without having any sort of direct control or lack of direct control, because we only have like a rebuke and little things like that. So definitely nice. This is probably our best form of direct control. Yavin on deployed, damage an enemy unit by the number of elves on this row, so we could stack the row to however much we need, including Yavin. So if we have 3 on the row, we could put Yavin beside it. That's going to be 4 damage, and we can take out an engine and whatnot. It's really good value for 7 provision. It's not very difficult to set up whatsoever in this case. So there you have it. Now, you might be wondering why I have Ida in this list. It's a really good trade. It plays 9 for 6, and we can use a Purify if necessary. But realistically, this is good to help set up the Sorceress to look for another Bountiful Harvest if we know we don't have any sort of removal. And it's really good to just, you know, have the unit that's sort of trading up in value. It's really hard to find things in the 6 to 4 range that are getting a significant amount of points, so that's kind of what we have in there. Now I put in a lock because we can't remove everything, and there might be something that we actually need to lock. it does synergize a little bit with the Crushing Trap, because if we're moving something to the other row, we have an even fatter row that we can punish with Crushing Traps. So why not have this here instead of any other lock, especially because it's an elf tag. It really kind of helps with the whole elf deck here. We don't want to shut down things like the commando that come off of the scenario if we don't have to. So I tried to minimize the amount of cards in the list that weren't elves. So I believe at this point we have 3 units that are not elves, which is not too bad at all. And then Bountiful Harvest just feels like an auto include. It feels a little bit cheap to not have 2 in the list. You know, definitely want to have 2. But again, with a RADEYAH list, that was the challenge, and that's what makes it really difficult right now, because if you're playing against the Scoia'tael Mirror, they're going to be able to pull Sinless into 2 Bountiful Harvest, which is just so many points. But in this case, we have, again, at least 1 to go here. That's why I put in the Sorceress, just so we can greed out a second one if necessary. And kind of moving down here, I like archers in Precision Strike decks. I like archers in elf decks. They're just good cards. 7 for 5, but 2 of the points are offensive, so it really helps. We can also split up the points, you know, 2 units by 1 each, so we can help tick things down for waylays and whatever the case may be. So it definitely helps nudge us in the right direction with something like that. And again, Cat Witcher, we talked about the row manipulation here, being able to get tons of points on the gate and play. When we're spawning elves from leader, we're getting points for that as well with the adrenaline effect here, so it's just very valuable. Of course, Waylay just to help increase the swarm. We've got Golden Froth to help boost 3 adjacent units by 2. That's actually like a pseudo helper for the Sork, as well as just whatever we need. You know, maybe from Bountiful Harvest we get a Whisperer, we want to get an extra special out there. It helps keep Deadeyes alive. You see what I'm trying to say? It'll help keep the Elven Swordmaster going as an engine. So Golden Froth just felt better than like an Alchemy Swallow or a Pact or something like that. It just made a bit more sense for me. Making a Bomb, again, it's one of those things where we have a couple different effects here. So if they have something that's row locked and, you know, we want to get rid of that and we've used our lock, we can just push that to the other row. We can just put it down as a response to maybe a 4-point engine that they're playing and remove it, or we can just, you know, do a bit of, just get the bleeding effect on it, plus just set up the bigger row for the Crushing Traps. So Making a Bomb is in the list. You could substitute it maybe for a Diamond Meridian Bomb, but it's been working pretty well here, so let's keep it. And again, Elven Swordmaster, we get a great cooldown, doing pings on the board. It's a pretty good card for 4 provision. It requires an answer, otherwise it gets phenomenal value. And then I tried to round out the other bronzes here with, you know, this one here plays generally 6 for 4. We have to be a little bit careful with this one here. Damage enemy by 3 if it's the only unit on the row. So you want to play this when they don't have more than 1 unit on the row. So earlier on in the round, you'll probably see in the video today that I'm going to be mulliganing that back more often than not, because I prefer even the Dolblethana Bomber. It's pretty consistent, getting those extra damage pings out there. So again, point of the deck is to swarm, to get randomized damage pings and just to overwhelm your opponent in that way. Now, my opinion of the deck is that it's not meta. It's a little bit tricky to pull off because the state that Scoia'tael's in suggests that you should be running more pairs. And, you know, I just wanted to try something a little bit different. Regardless, I had fun playing it, and it's always a blast when you're playing RADEYAH. And I actually made a different RADEYAH deck for Skellige the other day. If you guys haven't checked that one out, check that one out as well. It was really fun. But let's get into the video today. We got some good games, and if you enjoy the content that you see, don't forget to subscribe. I also have a contest up on my community tab. Submit your meme decks. Whoever has the best meme deck gets a game board and a card back of choice. And basically how we're going to do that is you're going to add me on GOG. I'll gift it to you, no problem at all. Happy holidays. We're celebrating 1K subs on YouTube, so let's get this thing going. So a buddy of mine got me an espresso machine for Christmas, and I was just looking back at the intro that I did, and it was like 10 minutes long. I couldn't stop talking. It's because I had 3 of those coffees so far this morning. It was so good. It came with like a little tester pack, and I was just trying all different types of ones. So, you know, a little chipper today. Let's get into it. First match is either Colgrim, Mill, or Hyper Thin. You guys know the drill. Taking our mulligans here. If it's Hyper Thin, Crushing Trap's really good. Gaten's really good. Don't have scenario, but we have ways to proc it. We can actually fish for it, and that shouldn't be too bad. It's one of those situations where we don't have RADEYAH and we're on red coins, so we don't have like that double proc in the same turn that I was talking about for the scenario, but it's whatever. Just go ahead, grab Feign Death. It demands a heat wave.
Carefully.
And it gets a heat wave. That's fine. The engine stays alive. Now we can just go and get some points on the board. It's unfortunate that the hunter there doesn't get the harmony effect because we're not really playing other Scoia'tael units from other sort of groups and whatnot, but again, it's mainly just to have that token come out. Back in my day, old school Gwent, older Gwent, that card was actually just really good. I still think it's pretty cool. Get the Vitality here, no specific reason, just because if we're playing into a longer round, we want to actually be able to get the 3 turns of Vitality, otherwise it's a little bit wasted value. And I feel that it's just something we can play here and get started. And then we have like good cards we could just play, you know? Froth is good here. I'd be willing to spend Yavin, that's why we're stacking the row. Put down the Bomber, it really doesn't matter. Just play it out and see how it goes at this point.
You can run, you can hide, but I'm gonna get you.
And given 5 Adept is gone, I think that's probably the play. We want to get rid of that before it's too late. The fact that Aileron comes out now with the 5 elves on the board is good for the deck thin, but it's also good for the tempo, and it makes it a little bit tricky for them to have a difference in deck if they play another Adept, and to take rounds. So, it's not bad at all. Bomber is risky. 3 units have armor, and I'm just kind of showing you guys that right now. But I feel like taking a roll, and we get it. We get it. Streamer luck. I want to see Sunset come out in round 1. That'd be great. It's not doing a whole lot for them here. A little bit slow. It was almost worth leadering there to keep Sunset in hand, to keep it going for another couple turns, get a bit more value on it because of the situation that they were in. But in this event, we capitalize on that. Remember, we still have that engine going, so we're up by 1. And now we have a really good position here to go ahead and look at playing a trap soon. Right? Keeps us ahead. We can also just look at playing the other 4P and just getting a little bit of a good return here. It still keeps us ahead. Hit that so that, you know, we still get value from the Crushing Trap if it decides to go on range. And then, of course, Crushing Trap's probably going to be, yep, the next thing that we play. Perfect row to set it up as well, because now we're going to be able to just get that armor off, get our tallest unit boosted by 3 as well. So even on a pass here, it's great. They might think it's a Horn or a Serpent Trap or something like that. And now we could just pass on this. We win on even. Should put us up by a few points there. Yeah. And if you look at the commitments, like, I mean, Feign Death was heat waved. It is what it is, and we didn't spend a whole lot besides that. I always mulligan away the blue. It's not my favorite card, it's good in some cases. Looking at the deck here, we have most of what we need, right? Verno could be nice to pull out with Oniro, but it's pretty gold heavy, and we did win on even. I think we have what it takes to push it all the way with this one. So, Sork goes down, hopefully it sticks. Nope. And I didn't put a Purify in the deck because, for what it's worth, it's not like we have a lot of cards that are engineing consistently. I mean, there's like the Commando, the Sorceress, and maybe if you consider like the Cat Witcher or the Isengrim, but just to put in a 4-power Purify. I mean, we do have technically a Purify too with Ada, right? But more than often I'll use that for Vitality. So yeah, Purify's there. I just couldn't justify a second one, I guess. Like, we wouldn't want like a Peller or the 4P Elf that purifies, or a Caress or anything like that. Seeing the leader come out's nice. I guess maybe they're looking for Sundrop or Snowdrop. And it's so tempting here to go and look for a Serpent Trap. However, we don't know if they're actually going to play another special card. So it's one of those things. It might not actually be better. You know what I mean? Especially if they do have a Snowdrop, they can put back a special, anticipating that it's a Serpent Trap, so they won't be able to really, you know, give us that value we're looking for. Might as well just click these so we can flip them over, it's no big deal. Now there's nothing to lock. Gaten just seems fine. It sort of pushes them into the range of having to play 2 cards. So if we do need to pass here, it gives us the card advantage. Snowdrop comes down now, so obviously it wasn't, you know, the best mulligan in the, like, throughout the game for them. They didn't really have the hand that they were looking for coming into the round. So we did capitalize on that. But when you see that sort of thing, you have to exploit it. So now I'm just thinking, okay, we flip it, maybe get the extra Deadeye out there, and then just take a Verno and just see where it goes. This would make them have to go all in, and luckily Snowdrop gets flipped. And then so we're done with 41 points if we play our last card. And I just don't think Hyperthink can do it in 2. I don't think. Oh, there we go. Another engine. That's beautiful. And nothing to lock, so we just throw it out there. 37 to 18. There's no way. And it pulls for a 3. They didn't thin out enough to get enough value there, so we just took advantage of the situation. Took the pretty easy win in that case. Moving on to game 2, we have Ursine Ritual. It's tough to get some good games today, guys. That was a good game, but I played against Mill a couple times. Got some really valuable stuff milled in round 1, got mad. This deck doesn't do exceptional against mages, so for what it's worth, the mage matchup is extremely difficult. Battle Trance is extremely difficult. Just an FYI, you know, I don't expect to win those matchups a lot, if at all. And, you know, it depends on how much you're running into those, how often you want to play the deck. Again, if you're not queuing them that day, go to town. But if that's all you're queuing, try something with a bit more direct control. We have good damage, but we don't have a lot of, you know, 5-point removal, and, you know what I mean, just like consistent control like that. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so Mata goes down. This is starting to be, it's starting to fall into that homebrew realm, and those are the scariest ones, because You know, we do homebrews here too, and you never know what you're gonna play against. So it's hard to prepare for it. Go ahead and play that. Might as well just take the damage while we can. Don't want to use leader yet because I don't want to give them something to interact with. I know it would reduce the cooldown on the swordmaster, but it's fine. That actually is like a definitely a rebuke that we want. And then at this point, now we can just look at maybe looking for a way out of the round, getting rid of everything on the board for them, because we're playing a little bit slow. We're not playing the sort of round one that I'd like to have, and that hurts. 1, 2, 3, one more, 4. And they just don't want to see us win, man. Perfect value on the archer. Quick removal for the blue boy. If you're playing against blue boy, the death blow does not proc it. Keep that in mind. So now they're doing Radeyah too. Okay, Radeyah versus Radeyah mirror, guys. And all of a sudden, they're putting me in a bad spot. Hands down. Like, what do you do? You know? We don't play one leader charge because, again, it only puts us up by 3. And we can still play to 4 if they pass. Having played Radeyah there, it's confusing to me. Like, I don't see why they would pass. 4 damage, okay. So we have to play that because we need to play something that keeps us ahead. And obviously we might have to go all in here and spend some good cards to take round, but we've sort of had to make that choice. I don't know if they're going to go full leader here, so I guess everything else they wanted to play was too expensive. I don't know why you push that hard just to pass, but hey, it is what it is. I'll take it. And again, we got to show you guys the pros and cons of the decks, right? So in this case, if you don't draw your cards, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? You need certain cards, you need certain plays to get the tempo you need to get out of a round. And at least we pull into some of those cards in round 2. Now, Waylay's kind of awkward by itself. Now that's really good. That's really good. We took round 1. Wow, they spent a lot of gold cards. We didn't spend much at all. So we could jam Radeyah scenario. Seeing that much come out in round 1 tells me that, you know, I think we can get them to go all in here with everything. So they lippied. It's a little bit of an unconventional lippy deck, but I like it. I like it so far, it's interesting. Melusine on the discard. That's a pretty harsh discard though. Okay, so it comes back. But we have so much potential here. Look, I could probably clear the board. So the only thing I don't like about Radeyah in the same round as the scenario is that unless you have Vernal out there, Commando turns off, so that's kind of annoying. And it is often difficult to play scenario and Gaten in the same round because you see how the board just gets really full really quick. You can't really move like a full row and get the maximum value from it, but even in this case, I think it still plays for its provisions. But having it in like a round separate from the Feign Death is probably preferred. At least we get a good lock in this matchup. 51-5, Commando's back online. I'm feeling pretty good about it. And there's consideration to pass here, but I think with the points we have in hand, we probably have enough to just go all in here. It's only 49-14 leaders spent, so I'm feeling pretty confident, especially when we get the second special, if the Sorcerer sticks. So we'll just go ahead and put that one down. And we can fish for a waylay, we can fish for maybe another, okay, double Radeyah versus my single Radeyah.
To fear, there is nothing.
Double Radeyah Lippy. I still have to find a way to play Land of a Thousand Fables. I want to try something, you know, unique with that. Let's see, here we got Waylay, just counting points to make sure we have something that we can remove, and of course the bear is good to go. Take that out here, 60 to 16 and counting. And that just takes it. They said they had enough. Moving on to the last game. I have a little bonus game after this, but here's the last one. And I mentioned to you guys here that this matchup is extremely tough. It's one of those things where if you want to compete with Battle Trance, I really think that you need to play a bit more of the meta Scoia'tael. You definitely want to have a Simlas in the deck, just because you got to be able to contend with what they're doing. And, you know, Forest Protector is one of those things you want to have too. Double Bountiful is something you want to have. So, wasn't excited for this matchup at all. I wasn't.
We shall drive the ape men into the sea.
They just have so many points, and it's probably the best deck that you can put Mushy Truffle in. I honestly think so. The synergy with their leader and the synergy with the druids is just phenomenal. Like, I don't know any other deck where it trades that, like, nice. There's honestly, Mushy Truffle is good. You could put it in any faction, but it's definitely the best in this deck. So that's part of why it's so hard to deal with. You can make a round out of it. And then if they have a Melusine, you know, that's another round. So, and that gets a little bit awkward too. Because if we proc Scenario one more time, we actually have to hit that with a Waylay. If I hit that with a Waylay, it boosts it. So I'm looking for something else to do before, so that, you know, we can get another card on the board and maybe target that one instead. And based on what we have, I don't think it's worth like a Serpent Trap. I'm thinking maybe we just put down like the Cat Witcher and even shut down Commando, just so that we have a bit more value on the trade. So Cat Witcher goes down, no big deal. It is what it is.
The Enche are different, more knowing and dignified.
And I wouldn't do that necessarily if we had like if it was a much closer round, but because we have such a significant lead, there's a little bit of space to do that. And that's worth a Serpent Trap. That's definitely worth a Serpent Trap. We'll take it. 13 points and counting. I mean, let's just, yeah. 7 for 13. 13 for 7. Yeah. So what do they do there? And for what it's worth, if they play here, we'd even potentially consider a pass. So they pass on 8. I guess there were some mistakes in hand. Maybe there's something they had to fix. It's not always the opponent not knowing what to do. It's the opponent just accepting, like, alright, we don't have this round and it's not worth playing into. But I would still try and play it down to at least 7 so that I have 6. So there's a little bit of an advantage there. Now it's just opening the invitation for us to really just push them. And I'm feeling pretty good. Round under the belt, and then we have, of course, a bunch of bronze cards we could trade, so
The mysteries of this world, boundless they are.
Defender makes it really tricky to get some value off things like Waylay, but it is what it is. I'm a little bit concerned of them establishing a Melusine behind it, but we kind of have to just continue to play here because I don't want to give them a free round. I want to see if we can get like a scenario down or something like that. That might give us a little bit of a competitive advantage going into round 3. And with Defender on melee row, it's not really worth taking the damage. With it being able to heal itself anyways, like you can get that armor on it basically, it's not really worth taking the damage anyways. So yeah, that'll do. Whisper goes down, a little bit of carryover is fine. And we still have a couple specials we could play. So we have Oniro. If we Oniro into another special, we have the Waylay in hand. And I'm thinking about taking the Oniro right now because a lot of the times in this matchup specifically, or when you're playing Scoia'tael against a Battle Trance, you might see the offensive Mardrome, and that's actually pretty smart. So they'll take out the 3 to prevent us from getting like 12 off of it. So gotta respect that a little bit and just play specials down. And look for another one too, because we can keep the train going. If they haven't removed it at the end of this turn, we get even more value from it. So that's pretty much what that was all about. I'm just thinking back towards like a bit earlier in the video, like the deck explanation and things like that. Do you guys prefer that at the beginning of the video or at the end of the video? Because if you're newer to the game, maybe you want to see that at the beginning, but if you're very familiar with the game, maybe you want to see that at the end or not even at all. Just give me your thought process on that, because I want to make sure that I'm sort of delivering the content in a way that makes you guys the happiest, right? I'm down for whatever, so that's pretty well it. Looking at what we have here, honestly, stack the roll for the crushing trap.
Splendid crops this year, and ever they shall be. Leave it to me.
Racists.
And there's no harm in putting down something like this, because the board state is the best it's going to be, considering that we're going to be going into a shorter round 3. When I commit the Isengram, I'm not thinking about committing the leader, and I'm not thinking about committing the Vernacel, so keep that in mind. That decision has already been made. I'm just thinking about using the other 2 bronzes we have, potentially even gate, and if it trades well, and then just leaving. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it. The fact that they have Draco Turtle tells me that they probably don't have Melusine. And they play that from hand, so I like it. I like it, but I want to see some bigger commitments. They're playing that, trying to get out of the round inexpensively. I want to see a bit more here, so we'll go ahead and slap that roll. It sucks that we're helping them a little bit with the turtle, but it is what it is. At least that engine's turned off at this point. And we still can't rip that defender. Having them waste one of those is good too. I mean, these are like little trades, but that's a big trade that we need. Getting the sunset out is really good. That would have been worth tons and tons of points for a shorter round 3. It just would have made us lose almost by itself. Yeah, Waylay here, even though it's not a great Waylay. Just because they have to play. The source is really keeping us in the round. The Whisperer, it's really helping out. They haven't been able to put a stop to it. Moshi Truffle down's good and everything, but I want to see them click it at least once. I want to see them spend another gold, so it's whatever. We'll play this, and if they pass, we just put down Verno, we win the game. But if they play, we can't play, that's the thing. We have to pass.
What do you need?
Seeing that come back is not bad. I guess they're pretty confident. That's the best thing they're looking for. Maybe it's the only thing they have. Heal off the alchemy sucks for us. That's what I was talking about, the synergy that we had there. But I'm hoping that this is enough points spent so that, you know, round 3 is a little bit easier for us. They did play the first technical reset of the location, so maybe they can't do it again. So they have their leader charge, we have our leader. It's pretty competitive at this point. I want better cards, please. Yaven's okay, we want more units. Bomber's okay, I guess. My computer's getting slow and loud right now. That's a little strange. Might do a couple upgrades soon. Oh no. So Geddeneth comes down. Not looking good for us at all. If they don't leader it, then we... Okay, whoops. Manifested. There we go. So that's out of range. We can't touch that. The best I can do is lock it at this point and hope they don't have a teched in Grimace, but at the end of the day, they still have the bonded ability more than likely, so... And that's why I wanted to show you guys this game, because it's a matchup that I find very difficult to win with our sort of deck structure. But you never know. You gotta keep playing these things out because there's such a thing as human error, and if your opponent makes a mistake, well, then you've just been handed a win. So keep that in mind. When the matchup's not in your favor, see it through to the end 9 times out of 10, right? I know sometimes we all just rage quit. Trust me on this one. And what do they got? That's probably Fuchsia, right? Because it's taken so long to... Yeah, taking so long to load. Draco Turtle, this is going to be bad. If they could proc that scenario, Draco Turtle just goes wild and we get blown out of the water. So, makes Bomber awkward too, because we have a big chance of actually hitting that. So I think we take the points on the Burno in this case. We don't want to actually damage it and lose even more value. Then we can leader, maybe put the Yaven down. I want the board state to be as much as possible before putting down the Bomber. Okay. Down by 16, guys. Down by 16. Up by 5. What's it gonna be, right?
Travel makes one modest.
Nope.
Let's one see the bigger picture.
They should have put that on Mushy Truffle. They would have won the game. Oh no, a throw. And that's what I'm talking about, guys. Like, if the opponent throws, you win. Just keep playing the games. We got lucky in that case. They didn't have enough druids to finish the scenario, and they lost out on some value. Moving on to the last game. This one's more of a bonus game. This is actually meant as an example to show you guys how the deck rolls out really well in round 1 when you play everything right, when you have the perfect hand. So it's one of those things. Tuck RADEYAH back, Fable Neuromancy, and yeah, not my favorite card. You see it trying to me just tucking it back. So here we go. Arachas Swarm has tons of points. They play very fast. They like red coin. I gotta respect that. We play hard into it.
We will take back what was stolen.
And keep in mind, guys, we post every single day here on YouTube. So if you like what you see, again, drop a sub to the channel. Our next community goal is going to be 1,500 subs. And we're trending, guys. We're going at it really fast. Now, we got bleeding on that. We could probably just flip that over. There you go. negate the damage on the bleed. And throw down. There we go. Waylay for the second one. And 27-1. They can't take it.